The auditorium smelled of polish and dust, the kind that clung to old dreams and forgotten applause, and on that bright daytime morning it felt like the air itself was holding its breath. No one noticed the janitor mopping the aisle until laughter rippled through the front rows, sharp and careless, aimed at a man who had learned long ago to keep his eyes down. What began as a joke meant to humiliate him would soon become the moment that cracked open a truth no one in that room was ready for. Before the story unfolds further, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to the channel Dreams Journal if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the quiet power of unexpected moments. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Elias Moreno had worked at the Larkspur Performing Arts Center for nearly 7 years, always during the day, always invisible. He arrived before rehearsals, left before evening shows, and spoke to no one unless spoken to. His hands were rough from cleaning chemicals, his back slightly bent from years of pushing carts across marble floors. What no one knew was that music lived inside him, not as a hobby but as a memory, something that once promised him a different life. In his early 20s, Elias had studied classical vocals under a small-town teacher who said his range was rare, his tone painfully honest. But life had pressed down hard when his mother fell ill, and dreams were shelved in favor of survival. He traded sheet music for a mop without complaint. That same day, world-famous singer Valeria Cross was rehearsing for a televised charity concert. Valeria was known for her flawless technique and commanding presence, but also for a sharp edge that came from years of being praised without question. The staff whispered about her temper, how she liked to remind everyone who she was. When her rehearsal stalled due to a technical delay, boredom set in, and her eyes landed on Elias as he quietly cleaned near the stage. Someone mentioned offhand that the janitor used to sing, meant as harmless gossip. Valeria, amused and restless, seized the moment. What followed was framed as entertainment. Elias was called forward under the bright lights, his reflection staring back at him from polished surfaces he had scrubbed countless times. His uniform looked smaller under the vast ceiling, his shoulders tense as eyes fixed on him. The request was simple and cruel: sing alone, right there, so everyone could hear how ridiculous it sounded. Laughter fluttered again, and Elias felt the familiar weight of being less than, of being out of place. Yet something inside him stirred, an ache that had waited years for air. He stood still, daylight pouring through high windows, illuminating dust motes like suspended stars. Elias closed his eyes, not in defiance but in memory, and let his breath settle the way his old teacher had taught him. When the first note left his chest, it was soft, almost fragile, but it carried. The room quieted, not out of politeness but confusion. The sound grew, unfolding into something rich and resonant, filling the space with warmth and sorrow. Each phrase felt like a confession, a life lived in the margins poured into melody. The laughter died completely, replaced by stunned stillness. As Elias continued, his voice climbed effortlessly into notes that were rarely attempted, let alone sustained with such control. There was no strain, no showmanship, just raw, aching beauty. Some in the audience felt their throats tighten, others blinked back unexpected tears. Even Valeria, arms crossed moments before, stood frozen. She had built her career mastering those heights, yet here was a man in a janitor's uniform reaching them with a purity she had never touched. The song ended not with flourish but with a gentle resolve, the last note lingering like a promise. Silence followed, heavy and undeniable. The kind that forces reflection. Elias lowered his head, expecting mockery or dismissal, already bracing to return to his cart. Instead, the room erupted, not with applause at first, but with gasps, whispers, and then a standing ovation that seemed to rise on its own. Valeria's expression shifted from disbelief to something quieter, something resembling humility. For the first time in years, Elias was seen not as background, but as brilliance. In the days that followed, clips of the moment spread online, filmed secretly by someone in the back row. Messages poured in, offers for auditions, interviews, encouragement from strangers who recognized themselves in his story. The Performing Arts Center granted Elias paid leave to pursue opportunities, and local musicians reached out to collaborate. Valeria issued a public apology, acknowledging her arrogance and praising Elias's gift. More importantly, she invited him to perform alongside her, not as a spectacle, but as an equal. Elias's life did not transform overnight into glitter and ease. He still woke early, still carried humility like a second skin. But now, he carried hope too, fragile and glowing. He practiced during the day, sunlight streaming through his small apartment window, each note a step back toward himself. Music was no longer a buried memory, it was a living path forward. As this story draws close, if Elias's journey stirred something in you, if you felt the weight of unseen talent finally rising, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Dreams Journal. Your engagement helps these stories reach hearts that need them. Before the ending, take a moment to comment and share what the story made you feel, or who it reminded you of. On that bright day in the auditorium, a janitor was mocked for daring to sing, but what emerged was a reminder that greatness often hides in plain sight, waiting not for permission, but for courage. And sometimes, all it takes is one note, honestly sung, to change everything.